Good evening. Welcome to the regular monthly meeting of August 9th for the Lynbrook School Board. If we could all rise, please, for the salute to the flag. Mr. Pileski, if you would lead us. Tonight's meeting will not be live streamed. A recording will be posted on the website tomorrow morning. For roll call, all are present, but for Sean Murray and Leslie Danino. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of July 5th, 2023, reorganization regular meeting? Mr. Lunar, second. Mr. Pileski, all in favor? I have to start bringing glasses. We do have some new staff members to welcome. Special education teacher at North, Jocelyn Roslabik. Could you stand up just so we know who it is? Congratulations. Also, special education teacher at North, Janine Andrews. Welcome. And I don't know, John. Cleaner, Kindergarten Center Administration Building, John Abreu. It's usually more dramatic when I now say this part, but you three are free to leave. Yeah, you want to get out.
Congratulations.
Moving on to reports from trustees. Does anyone have anything to report? Moving on to old business. So as we discussed at our last meeting, do no harm is an issue that's garnering a lot of attention. We want to keep up to date on that. We said we would constantly be addressing that issue. So what we're actually going to do is continue conversations. I think Dr. Lynch has some ideas of how we should address that issue.
Yes, so we do have a work session on the calendar for September 27th, so I would suggest that we devote that work session to a study of do no harm. We can ask people from the community to present, we can ask professionals in the area to present, and we can hear from representatives of the teachers union or other constituents at that time.
And that would be public session at 7:30, correct, Dr. Lynch?
That's correct.
Thank you. Nothing under new business, so we'll move to Superintendent's Report. Dr. Lynch?
Thank you very much, Mr. Belmont. So we have a couple of universal pre-K. As you know, we're going to be launching a second site this fall. So we have one at the JCC and we have one at Tiny Tykes. Currently, we have 156 slots, but we have only filled 106. So we still have more spots. Please, we have actually been doing telephone calling. We've gotten a couple more families involved by doing personal outreach. But if you know of anyone with a 4-year-old who lives in the district, we basically have a 4-year-old slot for them at one of those programs. So we ask you to help us out in that. The food service program. So we did have a bid for food service, and the board will be awarding it tonight. We know we've been watching this issue come along since the proposition was put into the budget. Our current vendor, Aramark, did not bid. So that was a bit of a surprise to us. So there was a bidder, Whiston's, and so they won the bid by default. So they are now in the process of kind of taking over from Aramark. Mr. Press was actually with them today, and they were moving in new staff. They're trying to get that up and running. So it will be a bit of a change for us, but we do anticipate that the elementary program will be launched. There are a couple of the big pieces of equipment that have not arrived yet, and we anticipate that they may not arrive by the opening of school. So I think we had talked about that it would be possible that we wouldn't be able to get things served on day one, but we certainly hope that by October 1st, everything would be up and running. So those are a couple of changes, but we will have a food program. There will be an elementary program, and we'll be moving along. A couple of public service announcements regarding the food service. We did have to redesign certain things in the bid, so we are in need of a messenger to help us transport food. So if you know anyone who would like that job, please have them contact Dr. Berman, and we can talk more about that. Our summer program wrap-up. So yes, it's hard to believe that the summer is almost over. So we had our traditional summer playground filled with lots of fun and recreation and field trips. We serviced 680 campers this year at 2 sites, at West End and at South. We did launch an extended summer playground program through Right at School this year, and at any given time at West End, we had between 25 and 38 families being served. So that was actually something that came from the microphone. That was a suggestion from the floor that Dr. Berman looked into. Right at School was able to do it, and I think we had a fairly successful program this summer with regards to that. Our ESY program, Extended School Year program, was at Waverly Park. I do have a bias. It's my favorite program of the summer, so I go down there as frequently as possible. We've been invited for theme weeks, so we saw presentations and special assemblies. So we serviced 50 children with special needs at Waverly Park this summer, 26 of them in special class environments with 3 teachers, and I would say it was a highly successful program. We went last year, we started with a half-day program. We went to full-day program this year, so we thank Mrs. Schiller, Mrs. Saban, and all the folks down there, Ms. O'Brien, I'm trying to think, Brighton Sanders was there, and Marissa Palmieri was there. So we thank all of them for their good work. And for once, I'm now going to turn over capital projects update.
Good evening, everyone. So the work that has been going on throughout the district is progressing nicely. I'll start at the high school. The library project there is really moving along. They started with the carpeting and the flooring this week. That should be done, and they're going to work on the rest of the kind of the structural pieces of that starting next week. There's some glass partitions going in, and everything is really set to be ready to go on day 1 of school there. The hallways are also being painted, so that's really sprucing up the building there. Up at North, demo is done there, except for the courtyard work. The field, if you're like me, I kind of geek out over these things. They've got that whole field just kind of demolished, and now they're leveling it out with, I think they use satellites to control some of the equipment. We've got some new dry wells in there to help with drainage. And the parking lot is all kind of ripped up until the front section of the parking lot. That back part is all going to be repaved. So that's moving along, and I'm told that should be all completed by start of school as well. The turf field won't be done. They actually won't start doing the turf from from the architect said until the fall. So that won't be done by start of school, but that'll be done in the fall. Marion Street playground project is moving along. That's a large project there. I was over there today, caught a look at that. So they are working on the concrete curbs. So they should be done with the concrete this week. Asphalt will go in next week, and that should be done by the end of next week. And then all the playground equipment should be installed the second to last week of August. So that is moving along. The cafeteria is, that was a complete gut job. I was down there today as well. It is moving along. I'm told by the architect we should be ready for at least the space to be used at the start of school. There are some things there. The new bathrooms won't be necessarily done by then, but there's a lot of work going on there. It looks really great. That's really going to transform that space. The holes they cut to add windows to that space really are going to bring in a great amount of light, and the ventilators that they put in are going to really help with the airflow in that space. So over down at Waverly, that paving work is largely done. The tennis and pickleball courts are all paved and coated with the colors. The basketball court as well. We're just waiting to put in the nets and the basketball hoops down there. The parking lot itself has been seal coated, and we're just waiting for that to be for the parking spaces to be lined. So that's all moving along nicely, and that should all be done by start of school. There's new fencing along the baseball field. What remains there to be done is just there's netting that's going to go in above the fence. I think the fence is about 10 feet tall, and then there's nets that are going up above the fencing. That netting hasn't gone in yet, but that should be going in soon. And that's my report.
I just want to take the microphone back for a moment. I did forget one of our summer programs, our E&L program at West End. We serviced 20 children there, and that was another great program.
I just have a quick question. If the turf field is not going to be ready when school starts, where do the teams that would normally practice at North practice? Have we figured that out, or is that an issue?
That I don't know.
For North, it is not an issue. I'm trying to think, so, no, because that's going to be soccer, right? That's going to be soccer.
Soccer's in the fall.
So I think Mr. Martellotti has that handled. I can't remember. Yeah, I'm sorry, but we'll
Oh,
get
okay.
back to you on that one.
Yep.
But that is a thought. We're so fixated, I'm fixated in my mind on the Marion Street field. That's going to take place after football season. But you're right, on the soccer moving out of North. I'll check on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing nothing else from the board, move to public comment. If anyone would like to address the board, please come up, identify yourself, and indicate if you live in or out of district. Do a little Frank Sinatra.
Summertime.
Good evening, Craig Kirschenberg, LTA President. I came tonight to discuss the Regents Waiting Do No Harm issue. I sent a letter. I'm sure you all read it. Since there is since Dr. Lynch mentioned that the September work session is going to be devoted to that, I'll spare you most of my comments for now. I would just like to say one or two quick things. One is that last year, there was a commission with a whole lot of people involved that spent a lot of time discussing, researching, debating, and ultimately making recommendations. And when people put that kind of time and effort into committee work, there is an expectation that whatever comes out of that committee is going to be the direction forward. And if there is consideration by the board to go in a different direction, I'm here tonight to say that it would be a slap in the face to every person who participated in that committee. The teachers who gave their professional experience and knowledge and time. And just as they have a million times over on lots of other committees, and just as they would be asked to do on future committees, that their experience and their knowledge is valuable and it should be respected. So when a committee makes recommendations, and I've had these discussions before with administration, there's a contractual provision regarding it, that there is an expectation for shared decision-making, and a committee is shared decision-making, and that a do no harm policy is not what the committee recommended. So I think the committee's recommendations should really be respected. We've had this discussion about Regents Waiting, I don't even know how many times over. So that's it for now. I suspect at the September work session there'll be more to say, but that's just something that I'd like you to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Kerr. And just to make a comment, because things have come up on that topic again too. So, and totally not specific to this issue at all, but it's important to clarify for those that are listening that the committees are very important to the board. It helps us get information, but we're never going to rubber stamp that. So I understand what you're saying about expectations. The expectation should be that the board will very, very seriously consider the recommendations of committees, but we definitely it should never be thought that the board will automatically move forward with what a committee came out of. The idea, then there would be no point to having a board. The bottom line is that we have to make that final decision. That's for us to decide to do, and the committees are just one of the things that we take into account to consider. So nothing to do with this topic at all. We'll have plenty of time to discuss that next month, but I just want to make it clear that when those committees come together and we utilize them a lot, and we have over my however many, close to decades I've been doing this, but again, I just want to make sure we clarify, we're definitely not rubber stamping when a committee makes a recommendation, no matter what the topic is. It's just one of the things we take seriously into consideration. We like to have that input. Thank you, Mr.
Mary Beth Stalter, I'm a resident. Ms. Marcus, the answer to that question is the girls will practice at South, and the boys, I believe, are practicing at Atlantic Avenue. And I did also want to say thank you to Mr. Martellotti, who's not here, but he did work very closely with the mayor and Grace Park to work something out so that some of the games can be played at Grace Park. So the majority of the varsity soccer girls and boys games will all be on turf, whether it is at Marion Street or at Grace Park, with the exception of soccer day. But I appreciate that. But that's the answer to that question. And as far as the committee that Mr. Christianberg spoke about, I was actually part of that committee, and I actually don't remember us making a recommendation. I know that the room was very split with a lot of the things that were discussed. So there was no real consensus as far as I recall. And if it was presented to the board differently, I would take offense with that because I don't think we really made a recommendation as a committee. But that's all I want to say. But thank you.
Seeing no more questions from the community, we're going to move on to sympathy resolutions. I'll begin, because I remember, Mr. Trainer. Whereas the members of the Board of Education of the Lynbrook Union Free School District have learned with sorrow of the passing of Richard Trainer, former employee of the Lynbrook School District, and whereas Richard Trainer served as a teacher for 43 years, from 1956 to 1999, and whereas the Board of Education is mindful of the contributions made to our district by Richard Trainer during his years of service to our community, be it resolved that the Board of Education records its sorrow, its sympathy, and the esteem in which Mr. Trainer was held, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the family of Mr. Trainer with hope that they will find solace and comfort in the rich heritage of good works for which he is remembered and revered. Mrs. Marcus?
Whereas the members of the Board of Education of the Lynbrook Union Free School District have learned with sorrow of the passing of Everett Johnson, former employee in the Lynbrook School District, and whereas Everett Johnson served as a cleaner and a groundskeeper for 13 years from 1996 to 2009, and whereas the Board of Education is mindful of the contributions made to our district by Everett Johnson during his years of service to the community, be it resolved that the Board of Education records its sorrow, its sympathy, and the esteem in which Mr. Johnson was held, and be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the family of Mr. Johnson with the hope that they will find solace and comfort in the rich heritage of good works for which he is remembered and revered.
Mr. Ingram?
Whereas the members of the Board of Education of the Lynbrook Union Free School District have learned with sorrow of the passing of Dennis Whitham, former employee of the Lynbrook School District. And whereas Dennis Whitham served as a technology teacher for 33 years, from 1975 to 2008. And whereas the Board of Education is mindful of the contributions made to our district by Dennis Whitham during his years of service to our community. Be it resolved that the Board of Education records its sorrow, its sympathy, and the esteem in which Mr. Whitham was held. And be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution be sent to the family of Mr. Whitham with the hope that they will find solace and comfort in the rich heritage of good works for which he is remembered and revered.
Thank you, Ms. Harrigan. Moving on to donations. The board would like to gratefully accept a donation of a sideline tent valued at $2,600 from the Lynbrook Soccer Booster Club, which I'm sure they will be very appreciative of. I'd like to ask for consent agenda on resolutions 2308C1 through 2308C11, which includes the walk-ins, 2308NC1 through 2308NC8, and 2308G1 through 2308G60. Ms. Aragona, second Mrs. Marcus. Well, I should have asked for the motion first, so thank you for the motion. May I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? I'll move this way. Mr. Luna, second Mr. Lesky. All in favor? Also, just to announce, the first day of school is September 7th, and our next meeting will be September 13th at 7:30 at night. We will be back in the high school cafeteria. Everyone enjoy the rest of the summer. Stay safe and stay happy.